Hello, my name is Caleb Smith, and I am your instructor. I've been teaching geography for 7 years, but this is my first time to do it online, so we're going to see how it goes. You have the syllabus there online, you have your first quiz, and 2 other videos besides this one that you can start off with. So let's get into geography. Why study geography? Well, if you go to a doctor and a doctor tells you where the ulna is, or where the radius is, or where your heart is, that's great, but he doesn't know how to fix it. So the key thing in geography is not just understanding where something is, but why it's there, and being able to predict how to fix it if there is a problem. Geography comes from a German word, Erkunde, which means the description of the earth. And it's more than just describing the earth, it's describing the features of the earth in a location standpoint. There are 2 sections of geography: physical geography and cultural geography. Physical geography is more of the earth and how the earth relates to humans. It's things like glaciers, river streams, volcanoes, even that guy down at the bottom on the right sitting in front of a computer. He's a nerd, I know, but the fact is that he is doing physical studies of taking data from these other places and utilizing them to study physical geography. The other part of geography is cultural geography, which is, to me, the best part, because it's about how humans relate to each other in a location standpoint. Like on the left there, we have these guys from Africa who are standing there, one with a nice shotgun, and there's this random white guy there. Why is he there? Well, that's part of geography. Or on the right-hand side, there's a guy who's cooked a huge pig for, looks like a cookout or something like that. Food and what we eat and why we eat it is all related to geography and to our history. Another part of geography, which you can find on page 14 and 15 in your book, is GIS, or Geographic Information Systems. And it's the use of computer programs to help you analyze geographical data. It could be elevation, it could be property ownership, it could be things such as race or age. There's a lot of data associated with the location. When we look at the key geographical elements that we're going to go over here, these are elements you should have had in 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, but we're going to go over them quickly. Hopefully you'll remember some of these. Seasons of the earth are related to the axis or the tilt of the earth. The earth is not straight up and down. As you know, it is tilted. And because of that tilt, and as you see, the earth still stays tilted the same direction the whole time as it goes around and spins around the earth. But that tilt is what causes seasons. As you see on the right-hand side, the summer solstice is caused by the northern hemisphere, the northern part of the earth, tilted toward the sun, and the earth obviously spins. On the complete opposite side, the left-hand side, you see the winter solstice, where the southern hemisphere, this bottom part of the earth, faces toward the sun. In the top and the bottom, the autumn and spring equinoxes, the earth is equidistant, or equal parts of the earth receive sunlight. So, equal days. Weather, on page 23 in your book, is the current status of the atmosphere. Is it raining? Is it sunny? Is it windy? What's the humidity? What's the dew point? Your current status of the atmosphere is weather. Over a long period of time, weather is climate. Is it a tropical rainforest? Does it rain a whole lot there? Is it a desert? Is it tundra? And all of these things, I know there's a lot of them in there in your book on page 23 and 24 and on to 25 and 26. But the key thing I want you to get out of this is the fact that there are different climates, and each of these climates is related to location. Latitude and longitude, you'll watch a video on that. Hopefully you will. Just real quick, a reminder of latitude and longitude. It's a long way from the North Pole to the South Pole. That's longitude. Latitude measures how far north and south you go. Jimmy Buffett sang a great song, changes in latitude, changes in attitude. If you want to move further south, you change your attitude. You go on a vacation. So you move further south, those latitudes are going to be what changes. Wind is a very impactful force on the earth. It's caused primarily by the heating and the cooling of land, air masses, and also water, and how those things heat and cool at different rates, thus causing wind. One of the important facets of wind is called the orographic effect. Let's use the example of California here. In California, the winds come from the west, and those winds bring in warm, moist air, like it says here. As the air starts to hit the mountains, especially the Sierra Nevada mountains in eastern California, the air begins to rise. As the air rises, it cools, because as air rises, it cools. The air rises, it cools, and as it cools, it condenses. That's much like the condensation on the outside of a Coke can on a hot day. So this condensation causes the water droplets to combine into bigger water droplets, and as water droplets get bigger, they become heavier. Eventually, they become so heavy that they drop. They fall from the sky, and it rains. And so it rains on the windward side, the side the wind is coming from, which here is the western side of the mountain. As the rain falls on the western side of the mountain, it makes that side of the mountain green, or white if it's far enough up and it snows. But then on the other side of the mountain, you'll find a desert, because all the precipitation has fallen out of the sky. So on the back side, or the eastern side of the mountain range, which we would look at in Nevada, Las Vegas, it's very dry. Glaciation is another big impactful force in physical geography. Glaciers are these huge sheets of ice that have been developed for years and years and years. These sheets of ice build and shrink, and they move slowly, very slowly, through places such as Canada. There are several in the mountain ranges of Canada, the Rockies of Canada. And these sheets of ice are like massive icy bulldozers, because they move large chunks of earth, dirt, with them as they move and melt. Erosion linked to glaciation, but also linked to rainfall or wind or human impacts, is the weathering or working away of soil, dirt. As you see here in this photograph, the rain has washed out this large ditch in the photograph here. Plate tectonics is the idea that there are these large plates that sit on top of on the crust of the earth. And if you look at the earth, there's a crust, mantle, and core. And the core is the center, the mantle's the outside of that, and on the very outside is the crust. And the crust is made up of all these plates. And these plates collide and crash into each other. And where they bump into each other, we have earthquakes, we have volcanoes, we have all these phenomena associated with geologic issues. Now let's look quickly at the cultural elements. One of the most important is languages, how we speak to each other, how we communicate with each other. Here is a branch of Proto-Indo-European languages. If you look on the right-hand side, you can see the Germanic languages and how there's different Germanic languages like Norwegian and Icelandic through the West Germanic languages, all the way down to English, Frisian, Flemish, Dutch, Afrikaans, German, and Yiddish, which are all related to each other. And if you know the words of these languages, they are. In the middle, you see the Italic languages, which are related to Latin. And from Latin, we have all these different languages: French, Romanian, Spanish, Catalan, Portuguese, and Italian. Here's an example of, oh boy, that didn't come out right. The top right over there should be Serbian. But as you can see, how Serbian, the Serbian one is jedan. In German, it's eins. In English, it's one. obviously. But you see in Spanish and Italian, uno for both of those. And you can see how two is dos, due, dva, and va. For both Russian and Serbian, it's the same language, or the same word. And you can just kind of see there how Russian and Serbian are related to each other, how German and English are related to each other, like seven in German is sieben, which is very close to the word seven, and how Spanish and Italian are related to each other. There are a couple of terms I do want you to know for language. First is dialect, and dialect is the form of the language. The words we use here in the United States and the words they use in, say, England or South Africa or Australia sometimes have different meanings, such as the word lift. Here in the United States, we use the word lift. Lift is a verb. It means to pick up something. If you go to the United Kingdom and say the word lift, it means elevator. So there are different words that have different translations depending on where you go. Accent is the way you pronounce it. So the accent of people in Wisconsin who talk kind of like this is a little different than people who are from the South and talk more like this. That's just the way they are pronounced. But the word lift in both Wisconsin and Mississippi mean the same things. Pidgin, or Creole, is a mix of two or more languages, and we'll find this mix happens in places like Jamaica, in the Bahamas, where African mixes of languages along with French or English combine. Finally, we have the word lingua franca. Lingua franca is the official language of business of a region, but it's not spoken in many homes. If you go to Africa today and you go to a village, if you speak English or French, you could do business in these places. But if you go out into the villages, you would have to be able to speak mainly the tribal language to communicate with most of the people. Religion is another big one that we're going to discuss because religions are spread throughout all the world.